Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. The Greenway Outdoors is also an internationally syndicated TV show on Pursuit Channel and Wild TV. You are now tuned into our weekly podcast hosted by executive producer Kyle Green, production coordinator Jeff Hutchinson, director AJ Beadle, and creative producer Ryan Parks. We live in a world where our natural resources are almost solely protected by funds raised by hunters and fishermen. With over 60% of those funds coming from white males over the age of 55, the Greenway Outdoors team has set out on a mission to create content that would inspire millennials, Generation Z, and new sportsmen and women to get out, hunt, fish, and contribute towards conservation and the betterment of our planet. Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors. Hello and welcome to episode 30 of the Greenway Outdoors podcast.
Nice.
3-0. For whatever reason, 3-0 episode 30 reminds me of like the Super Bowl with the triple X's for some reason, but what Super Bowl are they on now?
50 something? Or maybe 60 now. I think they're in 60.
No.
Because I think Super Bowl in Detroit was like XL, which would have been 50, I think. Or that would have been 40. I really don't know.
I guess I don't know, but I guess when I see things that are used in Roman numerals or axis to to specify 10, I think of like the Super Bowl.
But
numbers.
I give credit to the Super Bowl because
XXX
that's how I know how to do Roman numerals now, because you just learn every year what a new
learn a new number.
But you just don't retain what number you learn.
No.
I
don't know what 100 is, but I know what 60 and 50 are.
This episode's going to be a little bit different. Normally we follow a pretty strict structure, but the idea was, I was like, we always do that, and sometimes it would just be fun to just talk about what topics, on our car rides. We're traveling everywhere all the time, and sometimes it's fun to just chat about stuff. And yesterday, we were finishing up the edits for the Redfish episode that's going to be airing next week. We showed you the sizzle reel last week, so if you missed it, go to episode 29 of the Greenway Outdoors podcast and check it out. But looking at that episode, inside it, there's a conversation between me and Drew and Josh of Smoking Real Charters. And I'm chatting with him. And one of the things that I picked up, I remember this, that the guy from Duck Dynasty, Phil Robertson, so he was the dad, and he dealt with his own controversies and stuff when he did that GQ interview and everything. But he's a pretty strong, spiritual, conservative guy, and I tend to like him. But he posted, he played football for, I want to say Louisiana Tech, but I don't remember what college team. But he played football in college.
That sounds right.
And he started over Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah.
And he was asked and drafted into the NFL, but didn't do it. Do you know why?
I know why. Because
it was during duck hunting season.
Yes.
And I've never agreed with something more in my life. Can you imagine? Like,
it's a tough one.
To be told you don't get to duck hunt anymore. Because let's say you go on the NFL. Well, you go on duck hunts with me.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But
I do.
You duck hunt with a camera. But if you were in the NFL, and let's say you're in there for 15, 20 years, that's like your peak years of your 20s and 30s.
And 20 is a long time to be in the NFL.
And you lose you lose all those duck hunting seasons, because you can only hunt during duck hunting season. It's not like you can do it in the off season. It's like, no. That's the only time of year it is. So I get that, but that made me laugh.
Hey, it worked out well for him. Now he's a millionaire several times over.
By creating duck calls and then selling it. Follow your passion, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think he's doing okay. I think
he's doing all right.
He's probably doing just fine. I think they might have made a little bit of money from Duck Dynasty, maybe just a smidge. And, his giant duck call company, Duck Commander, he's probably done a little bit okay there, too.
Yeah.
So, big celebration.
Yep.
Tomorrow is Ryan's 20th birthday.
Yeah.
So Friday. So possibly when you're watching this.
XX.
XX. Yeah. Now that we know, right? And Ryan, I was thinking about it today while I was driving here. I was like, man, it's cool. It's Ryan's birthday. That's awesome. But Ryan's turning...
Last year you didn't wish me happy birthday.
Yes, I did.
I almost didn't. If you wouldn't have told me today, I probably wouldn't.
I don't care.
We're not birthday people.
I don't care.
Not at
This
all.
one's special, though, because you're turning 20. Because everyone is always so fascinated by the fact of how small our team is. We've got this international TV show, and we have a small crew, small team, and we're like family, and we're all relentlessly working hard every day to do this together. And it's always fun to be like, when I like in the meetings like with big producers and stuff to like toss in there and like, by the way, one of us is 19, and like so everything you accomplish, Ryan, because you're 19, it has like this certain
the
aura
team
about
aspect
it.
gives it that.
When you say 19, but when all of a sudden you're in your 20s, like you kind of lose a little street cred.
I'm hating this more and more, being 20.
Yeah, like you lose a little street cred because it's like, well, yeah, he's in his 20s. Of course, he's, it's young, but, but when you say you're 19, everyone's like, no.
Big difference somehow.
It is.
We can
It doesn't make sense.
We'll
but it's
just
true.
continue to say I'm 19.
So like,
I'm like 25. He's 19.
Your street cred, we could still pull me out like 23 probably, so that's okay. But when you do lose a little bit of street cred, but obviously your resume is still pretty impressive for a 20-year-old. But it is weird how it's like that drop-off. It's like as soon as you hit in your 20s, it's like people start to expect bigger things out of you.
It's true. That's really when the ride starts.
At least you can say, like, you can always say, like, yeah, I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. Like, at least you got that.
I would have been
18. Yeah, you were 18.
Yeah.
That was even cooler.
Yeah.
God, you're not as cool anymore. AJ's back to number one.
I was talking to somebody about it, and they said, well, that's true, but maybe because you're 20, you're all the way at the bottom of that spectrum, so you also seem young in that way. Like, you're in the adult category.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're in the adult category, but you're like at the bottom. Oh,
yeah.
I think there's another hit when you turn 21, because then I can be like, he's not even old enough to drink yet, and we're knocking this out of the park.
Yeah,
so like that's gonna be my go-to now in the meetings. Like I can't be like, he's a teenager.
That's a good.
My go-to is like,
one.
he's not even old enough to drink, and he's creative producer of an international television show. You know what I mean? So
That's a good way to
I
put
can
it.
still put it that way, but you do lose a little street cred, and I know your mom's probably upset about it.
She's watching right now, I think. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. We got a viewer. Nice. Yeah, but
talking to the cloud.
No matter what, though, Ryan, you're never gonna wear a peach-colored shirt with pineapples cool like AJ.
Hey,
I'll find a way to
Look at
top
that
it.
shirt. That's a flashy-looking shirt. That's a flash.
I've been loving the color pink this year.
Yeah, you pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I don't know why.
Why?
Oh, actually, I do know why. Because when I saw the movie Bohemian Rhapsody,
What is that?
the movie about Freddie Mercury,
Yeah.
the singer
You know
of
who
Queen.
Queen is?
You're not getting any closer with me. Give me
We will
something
rock
else.
you. We will.
Okay, Red
That's the
Wings. I got
band.
it.
Red Wings.
Anyway,
Anyway,
he's got some. Freddie Mercury had some great fashion taste, so I was a little inspired by watching him. So I've been trying to branch
Spice
out,
it up a
get
little bit.
get
Nice.
a little flashier. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
You actually don't know who Freddie Mercury is?
Nope. Not a clue.
I believe it.
Yeah, I mean,
No one here is surprised that I don't know somebody.
you do though. Queen.
I don't. I've heard of Queen, but like if you're like, tell me a Queen. Well, now I know a song because you just sang
Everyone
it.
bites the dust.
I know that.
Another one. but-
Another one bites the dust.
Ha!
Everyone does.
Everyone bites it. Everyone does. No, I you should know by now. I'm terrible with names.
Yeah.
It's sad, but yeah, true.
We have a code of ethics in the whole team that like when we meet people, Jeffrey especially knows, if I don't know the person's name and I'm getting in an uncomfortable position, I will always introduce Jeffrey as like, I'll be like, oh, this is Jeff Hutchinson. And then I'll just stop talking. Because then they'll be like, oh, hi, Jeff, I'm so-and-so. And then that's how I pick it up. But
And then it's like, this is the third time we've been introduced to Jeff. I'm kind of done with this.
But Jeff, yeah, tonight.
done
Tonight,
looking
this is
at
the
this
third
guy.
time. But Jeff has gotten used to that. So now if he sees me do that, he'll say something like, well, Kyle, why didn't you tell me their name? Like, he'll throw me.
That's funny.
Oh, he's a savage.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Not a care in the world.
Yeah, he'll definitely do
You don't
that.
go. You always skip the wild game dinners and stuff. But he,
I always skip them.
you do. You never want to hang out. You're just like AJ. But no, just kidding. But no, that's something Jeff will do to me quite often.
That's funny.
So aside from your birthday, there was also a relatively new birth that was important to your family, and that was a puppy that you've got now. Let's hear about it.
She is.
I assumed you named it Kyle.
Yes, we named it Spoon actually.
That would be such a cool name. It makes sense
Dumb
for like
name.
10 reasons. But go ahead.
No, she's a German Shorthair Pointer, and she's 14 weeks old, and she's tiny and cute, and she just wants to love everybody, and you can't be mad at her when she does something bad. But actually, she's actually a very calm puppy.
Nice.
Compared to your other two, because you have two other ones.
Yeah, we have two older ones, and they're litter mates, and we got them together with the idea being that when you get two dogs together, that they'll be drawn to each other instead of drawn to your couch and tearing that up.
Interesting.
And I
I've
don't
never had that experience.
I I don't know. I don't know whether that worked or not.
Speaking of which,
or whether it made them more wild and they broke more stuff. Because if there was something to be broken, they broke it.
Oh, okay.
They were.
they're so sweet now, though.
But this puppy, oh yeah, they're really well trained now. But
They've got some miles.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
9, 10?
10.
10 each? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, but this other puppy, she lays around, plays with her toys. She'll come cuddle with you. If you hold her, she just holds still and lets you pet her.
Aw.
The other ones weren't like that. They're just excited to get out.
How's the bathroom training? That's the hardest part.
Well, we've only had her for.
Well, Ryan is 20 now, so he's getting better.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Diapers might come off soon.
He's off Depends now.
No, we've only had her for a little bit now, but she does okay. The other day she squat down to go pee, and I said nope, and
Nice.
I just booked it for the door, and she stood up, followed me
Oh,
there.
that's good.
We ran outside, and then she peed out there. We came in, and it was all good.
Nice.
So-
Why'd you pick a girl?
Actually, I don't think we got the choice.
Okay.
So we had her delivered from a kennel called West Wind Kennels in Kansas, I think. And the guy kind of talks to you and figures out your personality, and because this is all he does, and he figures out the personality of his pups kind of and tries to match that up. Is kind of what I got out of it.
Okay.
Really?
And then he chooses one for you, and based on the other dogs you have, he'll choose male or female.
When I hear something like that, I immediately want to question it and be like, is he really doing that, or is he
Yeah.
just like, you get this one, you get that one?
Yeah.
You negotiate a price, so you get Snickle Fritz over here. But when it comes to dog people, though, I actually do believe it, because it's like dog
Oh, yeah?
people are dog people are dog
There's
people.
a bond.
Yeah.
There is.
I'm a firm believer.
Yeah.
Like with our dogs, they're at the point now, and German Shorthairs are very smart dogs. They're at the point now where you can almost have like a conversation with them, and they know what you mean.
Nice.
Like they were never commands that we taught them on purpose, but just over the years of living with us, they just know what you mean when you say something. Like you could speak a sentence,
Yep.
and they know what it means, and they'll go do something.
Yeah. And like I always find it funny how like humans will talk to dogs as if they can understand it, like, or like, don't get into that, or get over here, when I think they're more or less sensing the energy of your tone.
Oh yeah,
And reacting to that. But we always like give the calls as if they actually understand English.
Me and Rover are chit chatting. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
it's like we'll say to the dogs, "Where's your ball?"
Mm-hmm.
They'll go look for it. They'll go find it. It's just different things like that. That was never taught to them, and that's like a lot of dogs do that. But
Correct.
there's a lot of other things that it's interesting that they've picked up on, and they know what we mean when we say it, and whether they're in trouble, whether they're not in trouble, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I obviously had one dog growing up. His name was Jaeger, which is German for hunter. It was Y-E-A-G.
That's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But he was a Lab and Springer Spaniel mix. So he was smaller, like a Springer Spaniel, but he had like a lot of energy, like a Springer Spaniel, but he behaved like a Lab as far as temperament. So like he was the best dog. My little cousin Ashley at the time was like 3 or 4 years old when we had him, and he was younger. And I remember I was sitting on the couch. She was probably actually 2. And
Okay.
I heard the dog yipe, and I look over because I'm watching her, but I was also watching TV. And I look over, and
watching
she's
wrestling or something.
Yeah, no, she's biting his eye. And I go, hey, and he was just laying there. He just cried. He wasn't going to do nothing about it. He's like, please make her stop.
Please stop.
Please
This
stop
sucks.
her. And this sucks. I hate when people bite my eye, and I'll never forget that. But his temperament was just amazing, and I remember. We didn't even really potty train him. My parents always talked about it. Like, he just went and sat by the door, and he just always knew. Like, the dog just kind of, he just did his thing.
That's like, some dogs just do know, because they're clean animals. Like the German Shorthairs, they don't like to be gross like
No.
that. They just know not to
Yes.
do something like that. When the dog's in her kennel, even if she's in there for hours, she just won't, because she knows she'll just have to sit there and deal with whatever mess she makes, so she won't do it.
You were talking about training the dog, and something I found interesting was, instead of, because a lot of people when they get a puppy, the first thing they do is scold them,
Yep.
and they pee on the ground, you rub their nose in it, and then hit them and throw them outside, and all these different training techniques that you see that people say to do and
Yep.
not to do, and there's like arguments and stuff. But you kind of had your dad, who's an excellent dog trainer. You guys kind of have a different game plan, especially starting out with the puppy. Explain that.
Yeah, so this is kind of a newer technique because it was a lot harder to deal with 2 puppies at the same time that were wild.
It's like having twins.
Yeah. And they break everything. But with this pup, the technique and it seems to be working so far, is especially to like acclimate it to your home and like help it get used to being around a new family, because it came in on a plane. It had it's a completely new place for it. So when the puppy comes, nothing is negative. Absolutely, no matter what it's doing, if it's breaking, if it's whatever, it's chewing on something it shouldn't, if it's peeing and pooping in the house, it's never negative. It's, you only redirect its attention. So if it's chewing on your shoe, you redirect it to a toy it has, or you get it to come outside and explore around outside and do something with that. And so so
you're redirecting as opposed to scolding.
Correct. Because scolding comes when it knows the difference. When you know it knows, and it knows
what is right and wrong.
And what's right and wrong. Yeah. Then you can scold, because then it understands why it knows it's doing something wrong.
It knows
and they have
why the
option.
consequences there.
Correct. So, I mean, at some point you have to you'll have to start getting hard with it.
Yeah.
No,
that's inevitable.
And to know, let them know that that's not what you do. But like when you're really angry with it, and however you decide to punish your dog, only comes when they know the absolute difference.
Now, you had obviously 2 before, and their temperaments were a little different. But is that the game plan that you guys have with Java and Lil, or
no?
So do you see a difference? Is I guess what I'm driving as like.
There's a big difference between the personalities. The puppy she doesn't tend to she'll go grab on blankets and stuff because they'll dangle from the side of the couch or whatever.
I do the same thing though.
Always. Yeah, roll around on the floor with it. Yeah. So that, which doesn't do much damage, but you just don't want her doing it. So you throw her a toy and she'll go do that. She'll go play with that.
Sure.
But the other dogs, they like Lil had this thing where she liked to chew on wires all the time. She's gotten shocked multiple times, but she loved to do it.
Live wire. Okay.
She's no Velociraptor. She doesn't remember where the fence is, like in Jurassic Park.
Nice.
Like we were doing something on our deck one time. We were fixing some stuff, and there was a saw plugged in, and we were inside, and she started yelping outside, and she was running away from the cord that she had chewed in half.
Oh yeah,
because she'd been shocked. And that's how those dogs are. They're just they're well behaved now, but when they were younger and more wild, they tore apart a lawnmower one time.
Wow.
In the yard.
A lawnmower?
A lawnmower just
object.
ripped it to shred. Obviously not the metal, but anything that could be torn off of it, they tried. Why? Why did you feel the need? Why did you have to do that? You didn't need to.
Didn't Lil tear off something she shouldn't have too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is jacked up.
When they were still at their kennel before we'd even met them or bought them or anything, because we bought them from the kennel in Michigan that time, and Lil, first, I don't know why.
Lil's the girl, Java's the boy.
Yeah, Lil's
of
a girl.
The older ones.
Java's a boy. When they were pups, still at their kennel, she decided to latch on to his penis and ripped it damn near all the way off.
Good God.
So they had to take him to the vet, and they stitched it back together, and he had to be separated so he could heal.
Rumor was he was looking at the other girls, so.
Yeah. What's really weird is they're brother and sister.
Hey, it's
territory.
Yeah, territory's territory.
But then it was probably about a year later, I think, and we had acquired them by then, and she did the same thing. Did it again. The poor guy.
He's got quite the kink.
So he's yeah. Java's got a little bend in it.
Yeah,
a little bend in it.
Yeah, poor dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a rough go at it.
I don't know why she felt like that's what she needed to do, but
was there a strategy in getting the dog now? While Java and Lil are now, because they're your hunting dogs for grouse and timberdoodle, upland game bird hunting.
Yeah. And
they're 10, so they're slowing down. Is that why you guys got the pup now, or was that a strategy that maybe the pup could learn from them, or how does that work? What's the puppy's name, by the way?
Maisie.
Maisie?
Mazi. Maisie.
What is that?
So we couldn't come up with a name, And so
It kind of reminds me of Biz for Elizabeth, your sister.
yeah, we call her Biz. Yeah. What this is so my mother's mother, so my grandmother, she passed away, and her name was Maria Zito. So Maria, M-A, Zito, Z-I. And so it turned into a good name. My mom came up with it, and it stuck.
I like it.
Nice little duo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To go back to what you said about how you don't scold them when they're young, it kind of correlates to, at least when I was growing up, it was always like, oh well, you gotta teach them young, or else they'll never know anything. You can't teach a dog an old dog new tricks, which has been proven wrong as time's gone by.
That's absolutely true.
And so the urgency to get the dog on the right path at the beginning lessens nowadays, to where you can change or avert their whatever they're focused on to a more positive thing, or what you want them to do, because over time eventually they'll get there. And like you said, if they know better and still act up, then that's when they get the correction.
And you said something, it's like with dogs understanding what you're saying, it's a lot about like your demeanor and like the energy you're giving off.
Correct.
And so like if you have like a negative tone or energy when you're redirected, like you're not spanking it or anything, but you're redirecting it to something you want it to do. And then when that happens, so you have like this negative energy towards it when it's doing something you don't like, you redirect its attention and it's doing something you do like, then everything becomes positive. You become happy. You
Correct.
become, like, your voice becomes higher, which, I mean, that's just the tone.
It's just this thing that the dogs can pick up on.
Yeah.
Like I could like swat at my dog, and in the most not positive, but just not in an aggressive way.
Right. You
He's
just
like
smack it on the butt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's just not mad about it. Just like, oh, okay.
That happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't. But if I'm actually mad and do the same, he knows, and either try and like, hey, what's up, or don't do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what age do you make the transition into focusing on grouse hunting then?
Well, the training for that starts immediately.
Okay.
So
what are the first steps that you guys are doing now?
So right now, one is just teaching the dog some self-control, which this dog's doing great at. Like I said, when you hold her,
I want to see her. I got to come over.
She's really cute. So when you hold her, the idea is that you want them to have enough self-control that they will stay still when you're holding them.
Right.
So and she just does that now. She doesn't care.
She's like, rub my belly.
Right. And another one is when you're holding them, you run your fingers through their paws and feel the webbing in their feet, and because that bothers dogs, they don't like that.
No, I don't.
And so you teach them to be okay with that.
Interesting.
Why?
Why? What?
It's just the webbing is just like, is it like a discipline thing? Like, I'm going to do things even though you don't like, and you just got to like them?
That's part of it, but it's also what if in the field something happens, you want to be able to touch your dog without the dog getting upset with you.
You have to be able to fix the problem.
Right.
You got to be able to be hands-on any way you want.
Right.
It's
so
like if if you were to rescue a dog that had trauma and is or nervous about like loud noises, you would take it to like a busy road and just kind of sit there while the car's just going by constantly, just loud, desensitize it, give it more a positive experience to those sounds, and then that's how you kind of correct it.
And so like,
you think that's what we do with humans to fix problems then? Like if they're like desensitize them and just drown them in whatever they're scared of, but
change the experience.
Instead we just give them pills, but that's besides the point.
There you go.
So like, an example of that is we did that with the older dogs, and we trained them to have the self-control where we could, like, even then after they get used to your paws, you start sticking your hands in their mouth.
Nice.
So you train them to open their mouth so you could dig around in there for anything. And because we did that, Java twice, I think, has attacked a porcupine. And because he had the self-control to just stand there and understand that what you're doing is going to help me, we were able to he just stood there and we pulled him all out. His mouth was full. He couldn't close his mouth.
Wow.
It was just packed full of quills. There's a picture somewhere. But
it happens in Homeward Bound, but not as bad.
Yeah.
You guys were just out hunting and you just tried to bite him, or?
Yeah. He saw it and attacked it, and
no kidding.
So he and like we've seen other dogs, other German Shorthairs,
right,
that they don't have the self-control. You have to, like, I think it was a friend of ours, this dog just wasn't going to let it happen, and everyone took their belts off. This doesn't sound cruel, but you got to get the quills out. It
already sounds pretty cruel.
Everyone took their belts off, and they went to a picnic table and strapped the dog to the picnic table and just strapped it down so he couldn't move or do anything, and just held his head and
to get the quills out.
To get the quills out.
So you're like helping him, but in the darkest of ways.
Yeah, because he doesn't.
I thought it was
doesn't.
like he's getting.
Yeah. I was like, what is happening?
No.
What weird story.
The dog had attacked a porcupine, and he had to be strapped down because he wasn't going to allow it to happen. He wasn't going to allow you to reach around in his mouth and stuff like that because he hadn't been trained to be that way. And so that's part of it, is just teaching the dog self-control in that way. And then the next step is German Shorthairs have a command called whoa. And so that means when you say whoa, no matter what they're doing, where they're at, what's going on, when you say whoa, it means stop. Don't move another foot. They will stand there, and like our dogs got to the point where you could
I'll tell the story about when we were up north. Your dad whoa'd him, if you will.
Nice.
And we were in the living room up north, and he goes, whoa, and he touches them both like that, and they just stopped and just stood there. But then he went outside. And he was outside for like, I don't know, 10 minutes or something like that. Came back in and the dogs hadn't moved because he hadn't released them yet. Right. They're just standing there.
Yeah, they'll just stand there. They just stay.
That's awesome.
They don't move. That is what you do. You do not move. Like in their extreme prime now, they're kind of like just getting to be old dogs, so they'll kind of step around here and there. Yep. But when they were in their prime,
that 5 to 8 year range,
you could go inside and spend an hour inside. They'd still be there when you came out. I kid you not.
That's great behavior.
That's awesome.
That's great
awesome.
behavior.
But it takes a lot of practice. And so, like when they're a pup, what you do is you stand them up on their feet in front of you, and then you grab them by their chest and in between their legs, and pick them up just off the ground, and then you set them down. You're not saying whoa. You're not doing anything. You're just picking them up and setting them down. And puppies get distracted really easy, so they want to go on to the next thing. So they'll start to move. And as soon as they start to move, you pick them back up and then set them back down. Then they'll start to move again, and you pick them back up. So it's just repetition over and over. You just pick them up, set them down, pick them up, set them down. And eventually they'll know when you pick them up and then set them back down, don't move.
Because when I do move, I'm getting picked up.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which, I mean, there's no negative to it, but they just know what I'm supposed to do is not move. Because every time I do, I just get replaced.
It's so crazy how you're like learning to communicate with an animal that operates and digests information different than you and doesn't speak English, and you have to find ways to like communicate with them. Mm-hmm. I was always like marveled by the fact that anyone communicated with someone that was blind and deaf.
Yeah.
Like what?
That's pretty. The deaf one.
It's a wild world that you're just like communicating with.
Yeah.
They got in like isn't it Helen Keller?
Yeah, Helen Keller. They would do sign language into her hand.
But I for the life of me can't understand how they got her to understand a language without being able to ever hear it or see it.
Yeah,
it's wild.
They did a movie about it. They had some lady come and teach her, and like.
How does she know what a lady is? It just baffles me.
I don't. We watched it.
It's part of the story.
We watched it in like third grade.
Yeah.
And like the lady would like take her out into the woods, and she'd like dribble water on her legs or something, so she could feel it, and then she'd run her hand through like the stream or something, and then after that she would type into her hand the word of what it is.
I see.
But
even so, you're still typing. So it's a good thing I'm not blind and deaf, because I'd just be confused and yelling.
How did I end up writing
all
books?
The time?
Yeah,
she could speak. You should look it up.
There.
There's videos of
that. Makes no sense to me.
That she could speak?
Yeah, I get it.
So how she learned to speak was she would feel someone's neck, and she was able. They taught her to correlate the sound, like the sound of someone's neck, to like the words, and eventually she was able to mimic that. She would feel her own neck, mimic it, and then she was able to. It was rough, and it wasn't very good, but she was able to do it.
The point that I'd be interested in finding out when she discovered that she was different.
Yeah.
Like, so for instance,
not everybody's like this.
Like to touch the neck and then to mimic it is to identify that neck is different than yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably, maybe not. So at what point did she go like, wait, there's other forms of communication happening.
Yeah.
There's people processing information in an input setting where they're hearing and feeling, or hearing and seeing that I don't have, and I'm different. Or did she never know that she was different?
She did. She did because she went on to go to an all girls college, and she did well. She she's written multiple books, and
I need to do a Helen Keller deep dive. Yeah, I'm interested in this.
She turned out to be a very intelligent person.
I have no doubt that she's intelligent because
I think she was fully aware of everything that happened. Like, she completely understood that people could see, they could see colors and all that. She understood people could hear and all
but
that.
You have no understanding of what that really means. It's kind of like
you couldn't explain.
It's kind of like when you talk to a right.
No.
Well, it says in the Bible that that in heaven there's colors that you've never seen before.
That's interesting.
Well, when you hear that, it's like, okay, so there's colors you've never seen before. Explain the color to me.
Yeah.
You couldn't. You could never do it. You could never explain something that you don't have any reality of. And it's kind of what she was able to do.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
it came down to surviving. That's how she learned to survive.
It baffles me. It's so interesting.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the dog can see and hear. So all of a sudden it's an easier, not training because you wouldn't train Helen Keller, but
in a sense you kind of did.
Educating.
Yeah,
different word.
but it's just wild. When we come back, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a little bit. Just processing it. Essentially, why is it that our hunting and fishing show, with no swearing, good stories, Bible verses, morals, ethics, all the good things, would be rated TV 14 on a big network? We'll talk about it when we come back. Stay tuned. You're a hunter, and because you hunt, you're the world's greatest conservationist. You're a huntervationist. You do more for wildlife and conservation than anyone. The Sportsman Alliance protects hunters from the animal rights movement. When the Sportsman Alliance gets involved in court cases or legislation, hunters win. Conservation wins. Become a huntervationist today and join the Sportsman Alliance like we did to help protect your rights against the animal rights movement.
Hot Shot Outfitters in Port Hope, Michigan is the destination for whitetail deer, crow, waterfowl, rabbit, predator, and turkey hunts. We have cabins, over 30,000 non-fenced acres, and a passion for delivering fair chase hunts to you and your family. Reserve your hunt at hotshotoutfitters.com today.
When your hands are busy, your mind gets right. When your hands are busy, you can't point fingers and complain that life isn't fair. When your hands are busy, you're serving your family, your friends, and your community. When your hands are busy, you show everyone what you're capable of. The all-new Ram 1500, Motor Trend's 2019 Truck of the Year.
So, welcome back to the Green Outdoors podcast. Ryan, I was just going to make this joke. I thought it was fascinating that we could end up on a topic like Helen Keller and training dogs, and you as a 19-year-old had so much information on it. But tomorrow when you're 20, that won't mean anything.
One more day of that.
Yeah, so you better soak that in.
When I'm 20, it's expected of me to know all about Helen Keller.
That street cred is going to go away. No, but I think that your hunger for knowledge that's very similar to AJ's is why you've matured as fast as you have and you're in the position you're in at the age you're in. Because, I mean, when you look at the footage and the sizzle reels and the episodes and how much impact you've had on them, and then we've got agents out in L.A. talking about how they can't even believe that we can afford to do it at that level is pretty cool. So bravo to you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean... Which is funny because I love learning new. I do like learning new things, interesting things, but hate school. I hate having to study, do all that crap.
It's the type of information that you're learning. I think all three of us are really practical learners. So like, if we're gonna learn something, it has to be interesting or has to have a function,
applicable. Yeah.
Logic.
And we just, if it's not there, then we go nuts. But,
Jeff, not so much.
Yeah, Jeff's our bookworm nerd.
Nerd.
With his nerd hair.
Educated.
Smart.
Doesn't change the smell.
No, it doesn't.
No, I'm glad he's not here. So anyhow, he's listening right now. He's like, he's on a mini road trip right now, so I figured it'd be fun to bash him. But
So, yeah, when he's not here.
jumping back to the topic that we were talking about, so if we go to a major network and it looks like we've got some big changes on the horizon here with the conversations we're having, our show will likely be rated TV-14, which creates its own difficulty for the fact that we're pitched as a family-friendly show where, there's some jokes in there that the parents will get, the kids won't. There's some jokes in there that the kids will get that the parents won't. They'll learn. There's no swearing. All morals and ethics and good things. Hunting and fishing and outdoors. But it'll likely be rated TV-14. And that one of the things that we might have to overcome is explaining that to people in a way that says, yeah, we're rated TV-14, but trust me, your 8-year-old's fine to watch it. And I can say that.
Which is true. It's absolutely true.
Right. So I can say that with a clean conscience, right? Like, there's no, it's not like I'm like the parent that doesn't watch his kids and I'm like, oh, no, they're fine out back there. They'll be just fine. It's like, no, they're not. I'm not that. I'm just
There's
saying.
power
like,
tools back there.
There's power. There's just so many fireworks. It's not that. I'm saying, like, in clean conscience, like talking to somebody at church with their 7-year-old kid and be like, no, they need to watch it. Be good for them. And I was breaking it down. So, like, let's break down what makes it TV-14. So, number one thing somebody might say is, well, there's guns involved. Okay, well, let me ask you something.
Yeah, they might say that mild violence.
Right, okay.
Just because the guns,
So you got guns in there. In, let's say, 35 to 40% of our episodes, there might be a firearm. Mm-hmm. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Fishing is a little over half of our shows, so.
Yeah.
So we go out. If I talked to a parent, I was like, listen, we're gonna shoot pellet guns or 22s, little small rifles, at a shooting range with a group of adults that are going to talk about gun safety. They're going to teach them the fundamentals. They're going to be hands-on. You'd say, sounds like you're at Boy Scout camp, right?
Yeah,
you're an 8 or 9-year-old kid at Boy Scout camp.
Yep.
Is anybody going to bat an eye at that?
No.
Okay. It doesn't raise a red flag like that would be something that would be bad for the kids.
Yeah, it's a safe and appropriate area to be learning those new
when
things.
We're operating firearms in the show, gun safety, and even the talk of gun safety is a top priority. It's taught, it's spoke about, and it's an important part of the show. So that shouldn't raise a flag, right? Mm-hmm. If you sat down at dinner with that same family and you said, all right, we're going to eat some venison steaks, would you, as a parent, or could you imagine a parent being like, no, I don't want my kid to eat those venison steaks because that's violence?
He's not old enough for it yet.
It doesn't. No, thank you, Ryan. That was great. He's not old enough to be eating meat yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's not ready for that kind of violence.
What an argument.
It's like, well, that might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Easily.
So you mean to tell me that the only other thing that you could try and pick on is the content of our show, and we've already established there's no swearing, there's no sexual references, there's no violence, there's no anger or anything like. There's nothing that moves us even to a PG-13 level in a movie.
Right.
Okay. No boobs. Ryan's shirtless once in a while, but he wears pasties. But that being said, it's like, so, okay.
What are pasties?
I didn't say listen to the podcast. I'm talking about just the show.
Exactly.
So, okay. So they're looking at, if you look at the guns, and you look at and you've already crossed it off the list and be like, okay, there's nothing wrong with specifically of the guns. Okay. And we've all identified that we can agree that 99% of people are going to agree with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with them eating meat. Okay? And the content of the show is not that of low, morality and, vulgarness whatsoever. So all of the things that you would find that would say that, hey, that's got to be rated TV-14, all the flags that would go off, you can one by one break them down. But if you bring them together, and you put all those things together where you're harvesting your own meat using gun safety with a firearm, then it's bad. And then it's TV-14.
Right.
Because then there's violence.
Then the combination, which is strange because hunting is, well, the way a lot of people eat their food now, the grocery store thing and the mass production of food, that's a relatively new thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, before the World Wars...
It's probably... Oh, go ahead.
Before the World Wars, I mean, that's when they really figured a lot of that stuff out, was being able to feed all the troops, being able to mass produce food and send it. Yep. And that's what they do now, and that's how we all eat. But before then, hunting was just a way of life. That's what you do. You want some food? Go get it.
Or only a generation or two.
Protein.
Till then.
Protein's a valuable and expensive commodity. And if you wanted it yourself, then you got to go get it.
Yeah.
And to think, to say that we've become so soft...
That's what I was going to say.
Weak as a culture that we don't believe that a kid should know where his food comes from or how to get it himself until he's 14.
Yeah.
Creates a culture of weakness.
Oh yeah.
That's because
I was going to say
it's festering.
That rating is based off of the coddling that is today.
Yeah.
10 years ago, we wouldn't have that rating.
But we have to explain it. So now what? What do I say in these meetings? What do I say? Yeah. Do I say I can break it down the way I just did and make them feel dumb? Mm-hmm. But we have to explain to mass amounts of people. So picture it like this: we're speaking at one of the Boy Scout camps, 1,500 kids there, and I'm speaking to them, and one of the parents asks, "Well, your show's rated TV-14. How am I supposed to show it to my 10-year-old kid?"
I would say you listen to TV ratings. Who does that?
Yeah, no, loser. And then point him out, and then make him feel really bad about himself, so no one takes him seriously. No,
I hope someone asks that question.
Well, it's coming.
I can't imagine. I mean,
I think it's coming.
If it does, that's just I don't think my parents, bad direction.
My parents just knew okay, that's not a good show. They'd watch a couple minutes of it. Nah, that's not good. Don't watch that yet.
Correct.
But in certain instances, I mean, even Swamp People, which the whole thing is, I'm not trashing the show, but the whole thing's sensationalized, and they don't even show the kill shot. And there's a whole warning about the way of life, and this is rated for da 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 da.
Yeah.
All in the beginning of it. I'm telling you, that we're gonna have that.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to think that we're a family show.
Extremely family oriented.
That will have that. Strange.
Another thing that's interesting is and people don't understand it anymore, but being a part of hunting and fishing in the outdoor world is it's a part of growing. You become much more respectful to living things and animals in the outdoors. That's a big part of it, yeah. Which, I mean, the most important resource to us is obviously just in a whole is
the
Earth.
Natural ones,
Right.
Ecosystem.
In the ecosystem, we need to take care of that. And by giving shows ratings like that, you're not giving the younger kids the opportunity to understand that maybe that's something they want to do or be a part of, which in the end helps our Earth.
Right.
It literally helps our Earth.
You're getting me heated because it bothers me to such a big extent. We're talking about the wussification, right?
Oh, yeah.
So now
nice
everyone's
word.
I like the wussification of our culture. So we're deciding now that it is unfit for, you can tell I'm getting mad, you're unfit if you're under 14 years old to be aware of where your food comes from, if it should be meat. And what you're telling kids by saying that and saying that this is something there, you're missing the whole years of education that could be happening to get them in at a young age, to get them passionate about it. 60%, you've heard this a million times, but 60% of hunting and fishing licenses in Michigan alone, according to the numbers that were released in 2017 by the Department of Natural Resources, says that 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55. Well, here's the thing. I make the joke, but they do eat a lot of bacon. And I will tell you right now, in 15 years, when that youngest part of that is 70 years old, they are going to quit buying hunting licenses because they won't be able to hunt anymore. Maybe 20 years, okay? But when that happens and those numbers drop off, how are we going to protect our natural resources? How are we going to protect the ecosystems? Where is the money going to come for anti-poaching efforts? Where's the money going to come from for our forests? What about our waterways? The Flint water crisis was just the beginning. The people working on that are from the Department of Natural Resources. If we don't have them there and funded well, then we don't have a way to protect our natural resources. And what you're saying is, by blocking it and saying that you don't want a 14-year-old or younger to be aware of where their food comes from so they can understand the balance between buying a license, creating conservation, and harvesting their own meat, and you're saying that they're not allowed to know about it because it's violent and it's uncomfortable, is asinine, and it's weak at best, because what you're doing is you're creating a culture that doesn't know where their food comes from, and because they don't know, it doesn't have value, and if it doesn't have value, then they won't protect the natural resources. If they won't protect them and buy the hunting and fishing licenses, then where is the funding going to come from? Because our taxes are already through the roof, so you better figure something else out. And then we're the ones who are saying, okay, I get the problem. We have to fix it. We need to figure out how to reach the younger generation. How do you do that? Media content. So we created a television show that covers the conservation, the checklist of everything they need for the hunting and fishing trip. We show them the trip in a reality show style format because statistically, reality shows are the #1 with that generation. And you know what number 2 is? This one baffled me, was cooking shows. So you know what we did? We got a cooking studio, and then we show them how to cook it. So they know the conservation, the checklist, what they need. They can see how to do it. We include a prayer, a lesson to let them know that morality stands with those who protect the natural resources. And then after that, we show them how to cook it. A to Z every time, creating the value and the knowledge that they need to protect our natural resources going forward. And you mean to tell me that that lesson is for somebody that's 14 or over? That's the...
I feel like I'm being yelled at.
I'm sorry. I just
on
it bothers
paper.
me.
No, yeah.
On paper, it's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
It is.
Anyway, another thing is like you're gonna give us a rating like that, even if there is some like not ethical stuff
anything.
in it. Literally anything. The kid can get on their iPod and look up anything.
That's also the
And
plus
weird
side.
stuff
People are going to
even.
see what they want to see, you know.
Yeah.
That's also true. Yeah, and I mean, with the internet now and the access, and every kid's 7 steps ahead of their parent now in what they can do on that little device. You know, like
That's their problem. That's their fault.
growing up for me, when I signed into AOL 6.0, when we got our first computer in 7th grade, and I thought we were really rolling. And I go downstairs.
Had that cable modem.
My dad had you hear the dial-up. My dad would be able to put in triggers of exactly what limiters were there and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
If he, why would he do that now? But if there was limiters put in on a kid now, my 7-year-old niece Lily would laugh in your face and go right around it in 2 seconds, most likely, because the kids, you know what I mean? They're 10 steps ahead, and technology's always farther than the parents that are watching it. But I get heated about it because it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense, and the more I know that rating's going to get put on us,
go that way.
and that's the game that I have to play. But when I have the conversation, hopefully I don't yell at the Boy Scouts when I'm in that hypothetical situation. But it's like I feel bad for the kids because that wussification makes them weak.
Yeah.
And being weak is not attractive.
No,
being weak is not good.
And technically, if anything, it could help us because when you're younger and your parents tell you not to watch something, 10 times harder to try and watch it. So it could benefit us, but I'll be baffled if a parent says that. I mean, if they do, lighten up, please.
Even so, the way that I see that scenario playing out is somebody that hadn't heard of our show, which how could you not have, right? But
exactly.
no, I see someone who's like, well, I haven't heard of your show, but it's rated this. What is it exactly that I'm supposed to be showing my kid this? And that's the way I see it going. Not like I've watched your show and there's guns, and not that, but. But
the on paper rating.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just what's going to happen. But that's not what it's not what it is for us.
Yeah.
Right. I would agree with it maybe with some shows, but not us, because we literally any age group of all walks of life could watch our show and walk away happy.
Right.
And not unless you're completely anti-hunting.
If you are,
and anti-gun,
you could come home. You could come
if
home.
You're running a tight ship. Yeah.
You could come home after church wearing your Sunday best after just hearing a sermon and sit down and watch our show, and not 1 ounce of it would offend you.
No,
Maybe
correct.
the podcast, because I get a little mad, but besides it, but the
just a different content.
The TV show itself, there's no good reason to be naming that.
We filter through it pretty good, and we want to send a good, clean message to everybody and help them understand what's going on and what we need to do to help make change.
Strong words for a 19-year-old. AJ, you had another...
Tomorrow it's all over.
Yeah, then you're just, well, duh. Then it's get your act together.
Oh, yes.
You had a topic that you wanted to cover today, AJ.
Yeah, it's just a quick little thing I've picked up on as I've been getting older. So I'm in the state now where I'm worrying about how my lawn looks, or got to keep up on it myself. So in my backyard, it's very hard to grow grass. Doesn't get much shade. So
It does get much shade?
does not get much
it doesn't?
shade. No.
So like burns out the grass?
No, it's hard to grow.
Okay.
That sunlight, it does a lot. So I'm at the store getting like soil, enriched soil to help, growth. And I see all these, products that are anti-weed kill, or pro, like kills all weeds, kills clovers, kills dandelions, all this and that. I mean, it's pretty much 90% of products out there. And growing up, I don't know if you remember this, but everyone would tell us that like dandelions are like the worst thing ever, and
But yeah, they're like tacky. Like if your lawn was covered in dandelions, then, you got to get.
I heard that
act
so
together.
much growing up, and I just like, okay, that just must mean they're bad. But now as I'm older and there's more
Everyone's eating dandelions.
there's
now.
more knowledge on it.
Say you can make salad out of dandelions.
I used to feed it
There's
to my
nothing
iguana.
wrong with them.
There's nothing wrong with them.
There's nothing wrong with them at all. They promote growth. They promote
a visual-
homeostasis.
it's a
they
visual thing, I
give
think.
life to insects, to small reptiles, small
Bees.
Yeah, insects.
Aren't they the first things sprout, like for bees too? Isn't dandelions like the first thing bees get every year? I thought I
I'm
read
not a
that
bee
somewhere.
expert.
That's not.
I think I'm right.
I don't
I'm
think-
gonna say
You could be.
I'm gonna say I'm 92% sure I'm right.
Okay.
So we'll see.
So my issue
used to have
is
bees.
my bone to pick
I'm gonna look it up.
my bone to pick with the whoever makes these products, and it kind of creates this brainwashing to people thinking that, okay, well, I need the perfect lawn, so I gotta wipe out all life just to have grass. And in reality, that's not really doing you that much, because weeds, clovers, dandelions, all types of greenery are all good for natural habitats.
yeah.
There's really no reason why they should be so much frowned upon. And my theory is that the only reason they're frowned upon is because we've been brainwashed by these companies that just want to make money. So they tell you, well, if you want the perfect lawn and if you want your grass greener, then you need to buy these chemically ridden products that are just going to wipe out life, but you'll have green grass.
Right.
And then it's 50 years of brainwashing where people, I call it like the subdivision culture, where they actually think, at the end of the day, well, I want my lawn to look the best other than Ted's next door, so I'm going to just wipe out everything. And all really we're doing is just making those companies money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Literally,
that's what it comes down to.
Just for visual satisfaction.
Visual satisfaction, because like I said, all those weeds, those negative components, those are all positive things when it comes to nature.
Yeah,
At the end of
absolutely.
the day, nature itself. And it's just a shame. And I feel cheated. I feel like I've been lied to my whole life. And it's not when all these millionaires at these landscaping companies, it's all money.
You need that perfect lawn with the perfect cut, with the perfect thing. Like they treat it like hair. I mean, like, look at us.
Yeah.
We all have perfect hair. But I'm just kidding. But the idea is like, it's a look and a visual thing based on like what's necessary. But like when you said like getting rid of clover, but then like deer eat clover and
There you go.
dandelion, like the
Exactly.
dandelion leaves. I used to go in the backyard and pick those when I had an iguana, and that's what we'd feed them.
Perfect.
There you go.
People
Perfect
have dandelion
example.
stuff in their salads, I believe.
Yeah. No, the leaves you can use as salad.
They're
Yeah.
very nutritious.
It's-
it tastes well, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it's a visual thing, and then all of a sudden, and you're right, they made a market around it. So it's like, well, if you want the perfect, clean, lush grass, well, then spend all this
Just
money and
nuke-
kill all these
nuke your
things. And
Yeah.
what I'm reading is that it actually depends on.
Wait. I want to try to take a guess.
Okay.
Because I think what it is dandelions can just grow anywhere at
Yeah.
any time. So as soon as it starts to get warm out, those are the first ones that usually tend to pop up.
Yep.
And that's what they might be going after, is because they're blooming and they can get pollen off of them.
So what I'm
That's my guess.
What I'm reading is that
I like the theories.
we all kind of are a little bit right. So it really depends on the area. So it sounds like these certain trees give off a lot of pollen, and they're in real concentrated sources in the spring for the bees. So they'll go to the trees because it's easier. They'll go to dandelions if there's not a bunch of other sources. In a lot of areas where there's not a lot of other sources, then dandelions are a great pick for them, and they don't have to go but they don't have to go as far if the trees are there because there's so much on a tree that they can just do that and be good. So it's a bit of a myth, but it depends on the location.
Right. Okay.
So,
I can believe in the myth.
yeah. But it makes sense that it would be based on location, too.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, just quit giving your money to these people. Grow your own lawn. Keep it green. Keep
Grow
it tame. Let nature be nature, and it.
Yeah.
I call it
you don't have to poison your little plot of earth.
Grow habitats, don't grow lawns. Essentially.
Yeah.
It's rather silly that everything we do is like we poison everything.
We literally do.
We
humans,
poison
man.
everything. But hopefully, our show will make a difference. The whole goal of the whole goal of the Green Outdoors, like I said on my rant, is to inspire those that are younger to get in the outdoors and enjoy it. And regardless of what our rating system is, and regardless of what hurdles get put in our way by corporate America and everyone else, we will mow them down.
Yep.
Like a old man who's protecting his lawn from those dirty dandelions.
Like a lawn with fertilizer.
There you go. I like that.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Greenway
awesome.
Outdoors. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Sometimes we like to go off the forum a little bit and just have a conversation, and obviously we have no trouble doing that. When you travel together as much as we do,
riffing.
We never have a problem.
Not at all.
Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Obviously, if you're listening to this on the NRM Streams application, you're probably watching it as well because it could be on demand. We also have it up on our YouTube channel after it airs live on NRM Streams. But make sure you get that application because then you can watch it live, and pretty soon we're going to make it so that you can interact with us during the show so we can cover topics, have people calling in and stuff. So we're doing our best to build up the NRM Streams name so that people can access us through there. And like I said, it's on our YouTube afterwards. Check out all of our old episodes. They're all up there right now on our page, and we've got a lot of other video content up there for you too. We're creating a literal encyclopedia of how-to fit videos for hunting and fishing. And we're working with the Sportsman Alliance on those, and we're really excited about that. Thank you so much for tuning into the Greenway Outdoors. We'll see you next week. Stay green.